I'll start with the first presentation about the inspection of ventilation system in the new EPBD and in existing European standards. I'm Valérie Leprince. I work in Cerema, and I'm involved in standardization regarding inspection of ventilation system. I'm the convener of working group 23 on the technical committee in CEN. So I will first tell you basically what is in the new EPBD regarding the inspection of ventilation system and indoor environment quality. I'll talk about existing European standards and then what is missing in existing European standards and what we need to develop to actually give some tools to comply to the new EPBD. First, let's start with the new EPBD requirements. A very new thing in this 2024 EPBD is that now the directive promotes the improvement of energy performance, taking into account the requirement for indoor environmental quality. This is very important that now the IEQ, indoor environmental quality, is set up at the same level as the energy performance. You need to reach a certain energy performance with a certain indoor environment quality. So commissioning and monitoring of ventilation system are no longer an option. Also, it's clearly stated in the text of the directive. So the objective of the directive is to improve the energy performance of building while ensuring adequate indoor environmental quality. There is introduction of continuous monitoring of IEQ in the text, and it strengthens the inspection of HVAC system. So every time I put some quote of the directive, you've got the reference here of where it comes from in the directive. So yes, now effective from 29 May 2026, you will need to have in every member country a regulation imposing a mandatory continuous monitoring of indoor environment quality in automation system for non-residential building. So the directive actually does not apply directly to the European citizens, but it's applied to member states. So member states need to implement in their regulation what the directive requires. So in national regulation, you should have now by May 29, 2026, mandatory continuous monitoring of indoor environment quality in automation building system. So this is stated in Article 13 of the directive. So this is a very new thing, and all the thing that is required in the directive is that there is now a mandatory regular inspection of HVAC system with effective rated output of 70 kilowatt. So the 70 kilowatt includes both the heating and the cooling, and this leads to a mandatory inspection of heating, ventilation and cooling system every 5 years if the system is below 250 kilowatt, and every 3 years if it's about 290 kilowatt. So, and very important thing is that when a ventilation system is installed, its capabilities to optimize performance under typical or average operating condition relevant for the specific and current use of the building shall be assessed. So this is a very new thing, and most countries do not yet have a protocol for the inspection of ventilation system. Now they will need to have a protocol that is actually implementable in every non-residential building, almost every big residential building, every 3 or 5 years. So this is a huge thing to work on in countries. It's also mandatory to actually record the inspection data. So a report must be produced after each inspection and must be uploaded in a national database. That's to ensure the traceability, the continuous improvement and integration into national renovation strategy. So this is also kind of a big thing to set up. Not only the inspection is mandatory, but the recording and the reporting of those inspections needs to be done at national level. So basically, the EPBD key message is there is a need for regular maintenance and inspection of heating system, ventilation system, and air conditioning system by a qualified personnel. Also, the EPBD requires that this inspection is done by qualified persons to ensure, well, an optimal performance for the environment, from an environmental safety and energy point of view. So And also where a ventilation system is installed, as I said, its sizing and its capabilities needs to be assessed. So this is really new things for ventilation in the EPBD. This is really new for indoor environment quality and ventilation. And now we'll check actually what do we have, us, member states, as tool to implement these requirements. So the tools that are provided are basically European standards. There are 4 European standards dealing with the inspection of ventilation system, I would say. So those are 16211, 12599, 14134, and 16798-17. Each of them have a different scope. I'll explain it to you, but may not be enough to actually cover all the requirements of the directive. So the 16798-17 is about any inspection, but it has been developed after the last EPBD, and it's really focusing on the inspection of ventilation system in an energy point of view, to check that, well, the energy use will be correct compared to what was foreseen. And it includes the inspection of ventilation system and air conditioning. 16211 only focus on measuring airflow rate. So for all ventilation system, any kind of inspection, but it's only present strategy to do measurement of airflow rate. 12599 only focus on non-residential buildings and provides performance testing at handover and commissioning of every other things but airflow rate. 14134 is dedicated to all residential buildings, and basically it can be used for any kind of inspection, but it's mostly focusing on commissioning, and it provides strategy for the full commissioning and measurement in 14134 for residential building. So if we go a bit more into details, 16798-17, this is titled Energy Performance of Building Ventilation for Building Guideline for Inspection of Ventilation and Air Conditioning System. It just provides general guidance for periodic inspection of system or commissioning, and it complements EPBD requirements. So it provides a common methodology, so that's a very good first point, I would say. It covers pre-inspection, on-site, the general methodology, etc. But it does not explain precisely how to perform measurement. It's just the general methodology to perform an inspection of ventilation system. 16211 really explain how to perform measurement of airflow rate on site. So it covers lots of methodology. So you've got a table. So it has been published very recently at the end of 2024. So in your country, probably at the beginning of 2025, translated in your national language. So the thing is that most methods presented here apply to constant flow rate. So you can do induct measurement with multi-point measurement, or through fixed devices, or through tracer gas. You can use flow hood. You can use fixed device. You can use a tight bag also method. But most of them are made to work if you've got a constant ventilation flow rate. 12599, the standard is now under revision. We should see it published by the end of the year. So as I was saying, this text only applies to non-residential building and during handover and commissioning, and it defines method to measure and verified installed systems. So it provides method to measure the fan power, ductwork leakages, sound pressure level, air velocity, pressure losses, and what to put in a test report. And 14134 is the parallel of 12599, but for residential buildings. And basically, it's explained what should be done in a residential building to do the commissioning of a ventilation system, and it provides checklist and explain how to do the functional measurement. So what do we need with all that? Actually, all those standards do not cover natural and hybrid ventilation. We don't have a standardized commissioning process for natural ventilation. Only the pre-inspection apply. So that's first problem, I would say. We also do not have a detailed protocol for the verification of demand control ventilation, how to check the sensor, actuator, etc. That's another issue because more and more system now will be demand control system. So we need to provide some information about it. And we also do not have a standard that explains how to inspect the indoor environment quality. We do have standard to measure flow rate, but this is not inspection of indoor environment quality. And if you've got a performance-based regulation, you also want to be able to check the actual performance of the ventilation system, so the indoor environment quality in the building. So there is a need really for specific protocol for that. And also protocol to monitor the indoor environment quality. As I said at the beginning, this will become mandatory in 2026. What is to be measured, how, which indicators are to be used, and what threshold should you use to check your monitoring. So guidelines from the European Commission is under development. We should see that appear within a month or two, but there is really a need to standardize practice about this subject. And to go to the indicator phase, there is really a need to define new indicators for indoor environment quality, and keep in mind that design indicators are not the same as monitoring indicators and inspection indicators. The need for those are not the same, and you can never guarantee in the design that you will obtain a given indoor environment quality in the building. Why? Because you cannot control occupant behavior, you cannot control the climate, you cannot control a lot of parameters. So just like energy, when you design a building, you foresee a certain level of performance, but you cannot directly check it, that you never exactly have the same energy use as foreseen on, in the building on site. So yeah, so there is a need to develop those indicators. So thank you very much for your attention.